All right, looks like I'm live. Good afternoon. All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to PTM Hangouts. Good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon. Can you see me? Can you hear me? Where are you joining me from? And on what platform are you joining me? All right, it's a beautiful Thursday afternoon. My name is Mary Beth Chima. I am the founder of the Parenting Through Mentorship Academy, and I am your host, the host of the PTM Hangout. If you're with me, please say something in the comments. Let me know that you're here with me, and let me know where you're joining me from. It's always exciting to be on your screen on Thursdays where we talk about parenting issues that affect us as parents. It really doesn't matter where you are parenting. It doesn't matter whether you're parenting from Asia, Africa, Europe, or wherever. Our parenting challenges are universal. And so, what we talk about here, or the topics that we deal with here, are tailored to help parents all over, wherever it is that you're parenting. These issues come up, and what we do here is tailored to help you meet, mitigate, deal, or overcome some of those challenges that keep coming up in our parenting. All right, so today we are looking at how we can help our children have a comeback, how we can help our children bounce back after they've had a major setback, whether in their academics or in other areas of their commitments or other areas of their responsibilities. All right, now why are we talking about this topic at this time? We're talking about this topic at this time because we all know, especially if you are in Africa, you are in Nigeria, even if you're in the UK, I guess this is that period where kids, most part of the world have kids on holidays at this time, apart from kids, say, in like America and some places like that, who are already preparing to go back to school or are back to school already. Right, so for a lot of us, our kids just got home and they've come with all kinds of reports from the term, right? Now, and then it so happens that this is the end of the school session, is the end of the session and the beginning. And in September, we're going to have a beginning of a whole new chapter in their lives, a whole new session, right? So right now we have parents with all kinds of feelings, and as a result of the feedback from school, some kids have come home with trophies, medals, accolades, certificates, that have been handed, or that have been, that they've achieved, that have been given to them based on their achievements, right? For schools who go the length to do all of that, to appreciate the efforts that the children have made. Some other kids have come with less than others, right? So some have come with 4, 5, 6 trophies and all of that, and all. Some have come with just 1 or 2. Some kids have come with nothing, right? And as parents who have expectations of our children, these reports or this feedback that come from school will be met with, different kinds of emotions. I've seen parents who have completely lost it when their kids come with reports that are not, that is below their expectations, right? I've seen parents who have completely lost it. I've seen parents who have, as in, gone into like real fits, like they've gone into like real, horrible fits, with the children. I've seen parents who have stopped the children from having certain privileges. Some have gone extreme. I've seen parents, I've heard of parents who have made decisions to move their children from one place of comfort to places of less comfort. I've heard of parents who have had to, in the past, who have had to move their children from the city to the village just because they were not pulling their weight in school. Like, you deserve to be in the village where things are tough and all of that, so that you would see that life is not that easy and you cannot be wasting your privilege or resources that are being, put into your education. So we've seen and we've heard all kinds of things. In fact, I even had a reaction this year, this term, right? I had a reaction this term that, ordinarily I would never, I'd never had. I don't, for a long time, I don't have that reaction when the kids come with their reports and all of that. So I understand completely. So I understand completely what it is that the emotions that are probably whirling, in you right now as a parent of a child who has either come home with a good report, or one who has come home with a report that is less than your expectation, right? Or one that has come home with a report that you consider outrightly unacceptable. So I know all of these emotions. I understand all of these emotions. However, we are looking at how beneficial are these emotions that we put out there when our children come up with these results, right? When they come up with these outcomes, when they come back with these outcomes. So we're looking at how beneficial these emotions are, and how empowering or damaging these emotions, what these emotions could do to our children, whether they end up empowering them or they end up disempowering them, right? And while we are there trying to, satisfy, the way we feel, satisfy our emotions based on the efforts that we have made. Because, of course, we all know that things are not even easy right now. Those school fees are not cheap, right? The school fees are not cheap at all. Things are not easy at all. So for every parent who is sending their kids to, school, any kind of school, as a matter of fact, and then, of course, the extreme case where you have to even pay through your nose, right? You have to pay, a leg and an arm to get your children into certain schools. So when you get those feedback, right, that the children, when you get those feedback that are not encouraging, or those feedback that are not, exciting, it's a whole lot to deal with. It's really a whole lot to deal with. So I wrote a post earlier on. Who are my people? Where is everyone? If you're here, please don't just be in the background. I need you to let us know that you have joined us and where you're joining us from. If you are on YouTube, let us know that you have joined us on YouTube. Okay, remember to subscribe to the channel. Remember to subscribe to the channel. Remember to also click on the notification so that you will get notified every time that we are live. Right. All right. So I wrote a post earlier on and I asked the question. So when your children come home with their reports from school, what is it that you are looking for as a parent? Okay, what are you always looking for when your children come home with their report? Are you looking at their GPA? Okay, I asked that question. Is it their GPA you're looking at? Are you looking at the area of your child's interest, especially for parents of children in secondary school? Are you looking at their class average, right? Are you looking at their position? And are you looking at, the lower part or the part behind where they tell you about the skills that your children, the skills, the character, and the abilities that your children exhibit? Which one are you focused on? Right? Because a lot of times we will realize that what we are focused on, okay, what the part of our children's reports that we are focused on tends to affect how objective we are about their reports, right? Now, their parents, a lot of parents, especially African parents, are usually focused on the position most often, right? Especially in schools where they still do positions. So in the past, when we went to school, because position was a big deal at the time, or schools actually did positioning, like who came first, who came second, and all of that. So at the time we went to school, I think most of our parents would not even look at any other thing. They go straight for the position. Did you come first? Did you come second? Did you come eighth? Did you come 30 over 32 in your class? So more often than not, if the child has come like 25, the child is 25, 25th person in the class, there is nothing else to say. The parents will not bother to look at anything else. It's simple. I mean, you are coming number 25 in the class. What happened to the child that came first, the one that came second, the one that came third? Do they have two heads? How come you are 25th in a class, right? So as a parent, what you are focused on when your child comes back with their results is usually, would usually affect how objective you are about that report card. All right. Some people are focused on their GPA. I look at the GPA too, right? I'm not focused on it, but I look at the GPA, okay? Because so the GPA is your grade point average. It's a total of everything that the child has done divided by, the grade points of each of the, divided by the what do you call it now? Credit points of each of those courses. So I don't know. I mean, I understand how it's done in the university because each of your courses have got credit points and all of that. So I don't know how they achieve it in secondary school. Okay, schools who do grade points. My son's school does grade points. Okay, my kids' school do grade points, basically. So I don't know how they come about the grade points, basically, but hey, it is something, right? So I look at the grade points because usually the grade points tells you where the child is at, right? So when you're looking at the grade points now, if the grade point is tied to a scale of 4 points, that in many cases is tied to. Okay, so if it's tied to a 4 points grade point average scale, so it simply means that a child that's got something around 3.5 to 3.4 is a child that is an A student, right? So the child has an A, right? So a child that has got somewhere between 2.5, the child has got somewhere between 2.5 and 3.4, thereabouts, is a child that's got a B, right? A child that's got somewhere around 1.5 to 2.4 is a child that has got a C, that's between 70 to 74 percentile, right? So for a child that's got a 70 to 79, more like 70 to 79 percentile, is a child that he's got probably a 1.5 to a 2.4, right? A child has got 80 to 85 is a 3-pointer thereabouts, right? So now 80 to 85, and that child will get a GPA of between 2.5 and 3.4. Now, if you are a parent who looks at the GPA, you will realize that sometimes you will be more objective than someone who is looking at just the position. Now, a parent who is looking at just the position, he is back from school, he has his result, they give you his result, you look at it. For schools who still have positions, you just see that your child is 32 out of 34 in his class. You go ballistic. What happened to you, other children, and all of that? Now you're not even looking at his grade point average. You're not looking at, individual. You're not looking at a lot of other parameters. You are just judging the child by just one parameter. Now, if you are doing that as a parent, chances are you won't be really very objective. You won't be very objective. Okay, so I asked that question. For other people, so for a parent like that, your child could actually be number 20, and you look at it and you see that his GPA is somewhere around a 3 points. So you know that, okay, he could be this position, but his GPA is around 3 points. So meaning your child is sitting pretty in the 80 to 85 percentile, and that's not, bad, basically. All right. Now, for others, you are looking at the area of their strength. Do you look at the area of their strength? For instance, this is for parents who have their kids in secondary school, right? So your child could come in and basically you look at the report card and the report looks like it's not really good. He didn't win all of those trophies in school. He didn't win all the trophies in school. He didn't, he probably has like a couple of B's and maybe 1 or 2 C's and all of that there. But then again, you know that this child is art inclined. This child is art inclined. This child is already heading towards the social sciences. And then you look at the subjects that are the social sciences, and you can see in all of his social sciences, he's on the A percentile in all of his social sciences. He's got A pluses and A's and all of that. Now, if you as a parent can be that, if you can look at your child's report from that perspective, you will realize that you are more objective, than a parent who is looking at position or is looking, at the holistic thing. Right. Now, if you're a parent who looks at position, you're going to be really very biased. Okay. If you're a parent who looks at position, you'll be really biased because the only thing you will see is that your child does not have a single digit position or that your child is not number one in his class. We will come back to why we do these things as parents. Okay. So if you're a parent who is fixated or who is fixed on positions, you will find that most often your children will never meet or will not meet your expectations, or the pressure you put on your children will be very, very high. Now, when we put those pressure, we'll come back to those pressure anyway. Okay, for some of us, we are stretching the children. Okay, but because we do not understand the place of stress in the life of children, also, okay, and we don't understand the place of effort in children. So we think that we're doing them a great service by putting them, under so much pressure to be top in their class every time. All right. So there are the parents who also look at the extra skills, habits, and character. That other part that tells you how your child is resilient, how your child is helpful in the class, how your child listens to instructions, how your child takes care of or respects school property and all of that. So there are some of us who are fixed. I am fixed on that. Okay. So there are some parents who are fixed on that. And so if as a parent you are fixed on the extra, the social emotional, habits or skills of your children, right? And how your child's character, right, is being accessed, how your child's character is being accessed. If you are someone who is fixed on that, you realize that you will be objective in a way when the report card comes. So yes, reports come, it depends on what you are looking for. Okay, how you take or how you perceive or how you accept your child's report at the end of the term or at the end of the school year is a function of what it is that you are expecting or what it is that you are focused on as a parent. As I speak right now, there's some of you parents that have your children's reports and you have labeled them based on those reports, and you have not looked beyond one parameter. You've not looked beyond one parameter in assessing that report. So what I'm trying to say to you is you need to go back and think, what exactly is it that I am looking for when this feedback from schools or when these reports come at the end of the school term or at the end of the school year? And then this thing that I'm looking out for, does it allow me be objective about my child's report? Does it allow you take an objective position when your child's report comes up? As I said, if you're focused on the GPA, you will realize that a child with a 1.5 or a 2 point or 2.5 point GPA has not killed anybody, right? Hasn't killed anybody. The child is still somewhere, between 70 and 100, right? Now, this is not to say that our children are supposed to be laid back, right? This is not to say our children are supposed to be laid back and that our children are not supposed to, have the energy and have the passion to want to do well. Okay, now we want to also ask ourselves, why is it that my child is not the one that is at the top, since that is where I want him to be? Could there be things, could there be skills, could there be things that are foundational that are missing in his life that is causing the child not to be where I want him to be? Now, you hear parents say things like, how do they put it? And we're basically trying to make it seem as if the child chooses to fail. So you hear parents say things like, after everything, this is what you decide to do, or something like that, like basically the child choosing to fail. Now, there is no human being in the world who chooses to fail. We need to get that at the back of our heads. There is no human being who chooses to fail. However, there are children who make more efforts than other children. And usually, the level of effort that our children make, right, is dependent on the skills that they have. A lot of the times, the skills that your child has or doesn't have may be the reason behind your child's poor or good performance. Okay, Now, this is very common for kids who go to, say, boarding school. So you see a child that's been doing really very well, right? He's been doing very well, and then the child ends up in a boarding school. So the child ends up in a boarding school, and then he comes back from school with his reports at the beginning of the year, or at the end of the school year, and you realize the results does not reflect anything that this child was when the child was in elementary school. Now, a couple of things could have happened in the life of this child, or a couple of things change or this drop in the child's academic performance. One of these could be that your child is dealing with a whole new environment, a whole new system, a whole new, it's all new to the child. He's the child that's been home all this while, and all of a sudden he had to be plucked from the only existence that he knows. He has to be plucked from the only system that he knows, and he's put into a new system altogether. Now, some parents will say, is he the only one? Are the people that came first, were they always living in boarding school? But the truth about is children or human beings, adapt to situations differently. Okay, human beings adapt to situations differently. Okay, there are people who sleep under the bridge. They sleep every day, they wake up, they smile in the morning, and they have a normal life. If they tell you to even sleep without a mattress, would you feel the same way? So what I'm saying is we all react differently, or we all adapt differently. Okay, so it depends on the adaptability of the child. So this child could struggle more with adapting to that new system. So while the child is dealing with all that psychologically, while he's dealing with, adapting to that new system psychologically and all of that, it will all come together to affect the child's performance. So kids like that, you may want to just step back and look at how you want to support them. We will come to that. Okay, so that could be one of it. The other one could be that this child is a child that has been put under a lot of pressure. All right, so sometimes we put our children through a lot of pressure, especially in the last grade in elementary school. Okay, in the last grade in elementary school, we usually put our children through a lot of pressure. Okay, and then it's even extraordinary, or is extra in some situations. There are kids who prepare to go to certain kind of schools that demands that they work extra harder. So in the last year of elementary school, these children are pushed, pushed. So they are pushed, they are stretched beyond boundaries and all of that, just so that they can do well and make those exams. Now you stretch these children, you do all of that, and then eventually the child makes the exam. What happens after that? That's stretch. That's the stress and the stretch that you put the child through is not the child's normal. Okay, that is not normal for the child. It's not the child's real position. You just stretch them and all of that. Now, when that stress is taken away, when that stress goes off, what happens is the child would actually breathe, or would sigh, a sigh of relief, and the child would come back to his normal. Now, his normal may be, in the new place, or he gets into the school, his normal may be a what your expectations are, or a little below. So yes, that could be a reason why your expectations that was high would probably be dashed by the child, because hey, what you did that year was stretch the child, and this is the child's real position. One of the reasons why your child, and make it even.
All right, it looks like I have to continue. I'm so sorry. I'm having a major network glitch and may have to continue with my mobile phone. I'm sorry about this. Sorry. Okay, so we may have to continue on the mobile phone. We had like a major network glitch there. All right, so please, if you can see me, you can hear me. You can still see me and hear me. Please let me know that you can see me. Sorry about um, the poor network. We had poor network there. All right, so basically, if that's the case, I'm just going to go with the phone because I don't want the computer to throw us out again. All right. So if this is the case, if you have a child that is not just going to thrive in that environment, okay, and this environment could be anywhere. It could be a particular school, could be day school, could be boarding school, could be anything. Okay, it could just be that the child cannot thrive in that environment for one reason or the other, right? So you may have to. I mean, this child will need help rather than criticism and all of that. So this could be one of the reasons why your child would do that, especially for kids who are coming into that system for the first time. So this is particularly so for children who are going into like JS1 or kids who are going to like SS1, okay, just moving from one system of school, a school system to another school system. So this could be real for this kind of children, right? So we will come to what we can do really to support these children. Now, these are the reasons why your child might be struggling, or these are the reasons why your child will probably pose a negative performance or pose, a bad performance in school, and you may want to look into all of these things. Okay, so now let's look at, now you have your child. Your child is going to school, and then your child has come home, and the child happens to be one of those that didn't do well in school now, or didn't do well, or did not meet your expectations, because they are two different things. Some of us have very high expectations of our children because of how much we have paid in the school, because of what we went through to put them in that school, okay, because of who we think we are I mean, who we think we are and our position in the school, in the society, in that church, and whatever, how people perceive us. And so our children need to meet that standard so that we can hold our position as the best parents in the world, or the parents coach, or the MD, or the whatever. So our children we need our children to validate our position by ensuring that they do not go beyond a certain standard. And so we have all of these expectations made of these children, right, without seeing where we can come in for the children, or without looking at what the children would probably be struggling with. Okay, now I have said at the beginning of this session, that there are a number of things that you could look out for in your child's report, and what you are looking out for as a parent could be what is staying in the way of you being objective. So some of us are just fixated on position. Did you come first? Did you come 8? Did you come 10? Did you come 20? If the child doesn't come in that box that you have created, 1 to 3rd or 1 to 10th position, there is fire on the mountain. We don't look at any other parameter. For some of us, we're looking at the GPA. So if the GPA is a 3 point, the GPA is a 2.5 and a 2.8, we're like, oh, well, not bad. That's an A or a B. A or B, not so bad. If you're looking at that, chances are you will be more objective than a parent who is just looking at 1st, 2nd, 3rd position. You won all the trophies, you didn't win all the trophies. Okay? If you're looking at a parent that is looking at the child's strength, if you're a parent that is looking at the child's strength, your child is art inclined, right? And then he comes home and the overall result is not so great. But you can see all of his social sciences that the child is like A pluses, all of his science courses for the child who is into science. You can tell that all of his science courses are like the child has got like, is on the 90 percentile, right, up there and all of that. If you're looking like that, chances are you will be more objective as a parent. If you're a parent who is looking at the overall performance, attitude, behavior, skills, and how your child's character is being assessed, and you can see that the character assessment is on point, okay, you will be more objective, because, and in that case, you're saying to yourself, the teacher is saying, this child is helpful, this child is kind, this child is polite, this child is respectful, this child pays attention, this child does all of these things. Now, it means that you will be able to help your child more, because, hey, if all of these parameters are in place, if all of these things are in place, then there has to be a reason why this child is not pulling his or her weight academically if all of these other things are in place. But if you are a biased person and you're not looking at these other parameters, you will lose, you will miss. Okay, you will miss that teachable moment, or you will miss that moment where you can be a supportive parent to your child. So that's what we're talking about. So if you are the one that's always, okay, some people are focused on the class average. What's the class average? The class average is 80. Oh, you got below average, because the class average usually is the child's score in comparison to what every other child is doing in the class, sort of, right? So if the child is below his class average, so for some parents, that's a big deal. Now, that would make you a little more objective than the parent who is just looking at, just the grade, and looking at just precision. So what we are saying is, as a parent who is objective, you need to be focused on all of these parameters. You need to be able to look at all of these parameters if you want to be objective about the reports that your children bring home to you. Okay, you need to look at these parameters. I am very particular, okay? I am really very particular about, I'm particular about that point, that one that comes, their social emotional skills, the one that talks about how they're doing, their character, the judgment of their character, basically. I'm very particular about that, and that's the first thing that I look at when I look at my children's reports. First thing, I also look at their GPA. I look at their GPA and I'm like, okay, he's a strong 4-pointer. He's a strong 3-pointer. He's getting a 3.8, a 3.9, 4 points. So that's it. That's an established A student sitting down here. There and all of that. Okay, the child is, I don't talk about my children's report per se. If you've noticed, if you've been following me, is one of the things that I don't talk about a lot and all of that. Now, but I'll tell you, I said at the beginning that this term that I reacted in a way that I've never reacted before. So our son's reports came this year and this term and all of that. And when it didn't even come, I had a conversation with his teacher. And the moment she told me, I asked, what is his lowest score? I couldn't go to the school to have that meeting. So I was having it, online and all of that. So I was like, what is his lowest score? And then she told me the lowest score and all of that. And it happened to be a score that he's never had in his entire life. Okay, it happened to be a score he's never had. Okay, it was a drop, to a point that he's never been in his entire life and all of that. Now, why some person would be like, so usually I don't ask that question. When I go to school, I don't look at the grades and all of that. I hand the report card to my kids usually, and I go straight to look at, okay, character, and I have conversations with the teacher. How did he hold his own this term? How did he this? How did he that? What's the social skill like in class? What's the emotional skill? How does he handle himself? His relationship, interpersonal relationship. So I'm more concerned about those things usually. So this time, that drop, it was like, oh my God, what happened there and all of that. And it happened to be in a particular subject that he doesn't like. He literally would, if he had a chance to dump and never look at that subject in his life, it's actually French. If he actually has a chance to leave French out of his entire life, our son would gladly leave French and all of that, So basically, so I went like really, by the time I found out this and then that, for the first time, I actually went with the teacher. No, this is not acceptable. This is not acceptable. It doesn't make sense. It means that he's probably not, I just went, it means that he's probably not concentrated. Is this, is that, is that? I finished that conversation with her. And then I stopped and I asked myself, like, really? Seriously? What was that about? When I had the time, I actually stopped and I asked myself, like, really, seriously, what was that about? Why did you even have to, why did you have to do that? What was the need for that conversation? And then I realized there was really no need for that part of the conversation. There was really no need for that part of the conversation. It's more like, okay, why would you not just stop and be objective? First, look at this result holistically and look at all of the parameters. So I waited to get the entire thing and then I looked at the parameters. But then again, I decided, something, there is something in here and there is something that could be a teachable opportunity. Okay, and I want to share that with you as parents, and I want you to start looking at your child's reports from that angle. Now, did your child come home with a poor result? Did your child come home with what you consider a failure? Did your child come home with what you consider, a bad performance? That is your teachable moment. That is your teachable opportunity right there. How are you going to teach a child about failure if the child does not understand failure? So a lot of times I realize what happens to us is what we teach our children a lot of things that are abstract to them. We teach our children things, and some of those things, the children do not know how to wrap their head around it. For instance, if you have a child who is a high flyer, you have a child who is a constant A student, A pluses and A's, if they ever shift a little, it's probably going to be towards a very high B score. If you have that kind of a child, then the child doesn't really understand what failure is. If you have that kind of a child that is an A plus kind of child, he doesn't know what failure is. Now, when that child happens to get their first B, or they happen to get their first C, that is not the time for you to take all their games. That is not the time for you to breathe on their neck the whole holiday. That is not the time to make them not be able to drink water and drop cup. That is not the time that you make them feel terrible about themselves. For the love of God, this child has this child has put the right kind of effort for the last 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 8, 10 years of their lives. For the first time, the child has stepped back a little or something has happened, and you think that the only thing you should do is berate this child, judge this child, and make this child miserable. You are going to be disempowering that kind of a child rather than empowering them. Yes, so you need to be careful if you are a parent of a child that is constantly, in that high percentile. Okay, you need to be careful about how you take their, them stepping back a little or them doing less than they've done in the past. This is when you need to take that teachable opportunity and teach them what it means to fail and how to bounce back from failure. If you have a child that has been a B or a C kind of student, and then for some reason the child is doing a D, it is not the time to judge them, take their games, take everything, and make them miserable. No, this is the time to use that teachable moment and teach the child about failure. You need to teach them failure. They will understand failure right now because it seems like where they are at. Okay? It seems like where they are at, right? And it may not even be, I mean, your child moved from an A to a B. It's not exactly failure, but hey, it's just different from what the child knows or what the child is. So yes, take the opportunity and teach that. And don't teach it with criticism. Don't teach it with anger. Don't teach it with, don't use the amount that you pay in their school to measure how they should perform. Because that's what a lot of us do. We use school fees to measure, how well you should do. Please, they did not send you, they did not ask you to take them to that school. They did not tell you to give them the lifestyle that has made them think that this is the only kind of school that they should go to. Because some of you will come and say to me, but he said he wants to go to this school. It is because you have positioned him or because you have raised the child with that standard. So yes, he is living up to the expectation of the standard that you have created for him. So, or her. So yes, it is not, it is not, you cannot use the level, you cannot use the amounts that you pay to as school fees to judge how your children should perform. Okay, your children are an entity, your children are human beings, and your children should be assessed based on the effort and the skills that they have. Okay, so chances are, if your child is not doing well, it's possible that the child does not have the skill, right, to do exceptionally in that area. So what does the child need? The child needs help rather than criticism. Okay, I was talking about that child that has probably gone to boarding school and has come back this term, and you're saying, oh, boarding school this, boarding school that, oh, he was doing well in primary school, and then I gave reasons why the child could probably be struggling right now. Okay, I didn't finish that. Another thing is your child could be dealing with adolescents, okay? Especially for kids who are going to JSS1, and then even the SS1 kids. Your child could be dealing with a phase in his life. Adolescence has kicked in, so your child is dealing with a lot of hormonal imbalance and all of that. So the child is still there struggling with himself as an autonomy, struggling with being out of home for the first time, struggling with being in a new system for the first time, struggling with whether he likes, he's dealing with a crush. Your child could be dealing with all of these things at the same time, and these things could actually affect their performance. Okay, this could affect their performance really. Okay, so these are part of the things that we are talking about, right? And you want to look into all of these things. You want to look into all of these things without jumping into conclusion or treating the child badly because of how they performed. Now, how can we help the children? Now, another thing, the last one is the fact that your child, it's possible that your child did not have the skill that is needed to be able to stay on, study independently, and so put out what they know, in a way that is effective and can take them to that place where you want them. Okay, so a lot of times when a lot of our children through elementary school are not taught how to study on their own. They don't have the right study skills. They don't have the right research skills. They don't know how to work independently. So these are children that have been supported. They've been supported in school, and then they go home, right? Yeah, they've been supported in school, and then they go home. At home, you have lesson teachers supporting them. So some of our children through elementary school have always had people supporting them in one way or the other. So they do not grow to become independent learners. Hi, Ogbe. Nice to have you. Thank you, Ma, for this teaching. I am getting value. You're welcome. You're welcome. Okay, so some of our children never got to the point where they become independent learners. I talk about independent learners a lot, and most of us, a lot of us take it for granted. But your child cannot be a lifelong learner if your child does not learn how to learn independently. Some of us do not raise our children to be independent learners. Our children are constantly dependent on other people. So yes, the child may be soaring, high, your child may be a high flyer, your child may be doing excellently, your child may be amongst those, I mean, in the high, I mean, in the top percentile, 90s and all of that, and hundreds. Your child could be doing that, but hey, that is done with some level of support, because your child cannot cannot support themselves by themselves. Now, what do I mean by a child that is being supported, or a child who cannot learn independently? You have that child who goes to school. While he's in school, the teacher is right there. The teacher finishes, a lesson, and then gives examples. And then after giving examples, the teacher gives them sums or, whatever task to do in class. The child is working. The teacher is still in that classroom to ensure that your child is focused on the task. There's always someone supervising. So yes, your child is focused, not necessarily because he has the control, not necessarily because he can control himself to stay focused on a task, but he's that way because there is boundary created for him to stay focused on a task. So because he's someone who knows how to, adhere to rules, or is someone by virtue of his temperament would easily, adhere to rules. So the child will stay there, and the child is on task, and the child gets his task right because someone is there to support him to stay focused. Now, this child comes home, you take him to lesson, right? He probably goes to lesson 1. In lesson 1 is a big classroom with 1 or 2 teachers also there to ensure that after they've learned and they've done their task, they stay focused to see their task through. Someone is there guiding the child. For some kids, after lesson 2, they come home and they have lesson 3. This one is one-on-one contact. Yeah, we do that. Some parents do that, okay? All right, so the child comes, and this lesson is one-on-one contact. So the child is there with lesson teacher, one-on-one contact. They finish practicing something, and then the lesson teacher is sitting down there, and the child is compelled to stay focused on task. So you realize that at every point, if it's not the lesson teacher, you are there. Someone is always there to make this child focus on. So the child has not built stamina on their own to control their impulses, to control their, do you understand? So the child has not built stamina on his own. So you realize children like this get to an environment, probably a boarding school, or they get to an environment, all of a sudden they are in secondary school, and you are beginning to tell yourself, oh, he's old enough, he should be able to do his thing by himself and all of that. And then you go your way and leave him. Yes, that child will not perform at the same optimal position, capacity that he performed when people were guiding and directing him. Because, hey, all of a sudden, he has to depend on his own ability to stay focused on task. So if you know what I'm talking about. So this is what I'm talking about. So sometimes it is not necessarily because your child is, the school is bad, or because anything has happened. It could just simply be that your child doesn't just have this skill, never had this skill, because the child did not build stamina. Okay, and so this is what is playing out in the child's life. For some children, it is really, really very extreme, especially for children who have been supported all the way. Okay, so some of those children, the only way they perform at high level is when someone is nudging and reminding them, someone that they feel how do you call it, injected to, or someone that they feel they need to. It could be someone that they feel they need to perform well because of, I don't know if I'm putting it right. It could be a parent, okay? Because you are there, you're a parent, and you're constantly telling them, I need you to focus. So you see all I go through, just for you to make the best of your life and all of that. So you are there with the child, you are there close enough. Hi, Chidima, good to have you. You are there with the child, you're there close enough. So because you're there with the child and you're there close enough, and the child probably honor you, or the child is afraid of you, these two things could be what is making your child do well while you are in close proximity. The moment the child moves away from you or goes far from home, the child, because the child does not have that skill to stay focused or to work independently, the child will struggle and the child may not perform the same way you expect them to perform. So that this is one thing that even those of us who are supporting our children need to be careful about. Those of us who are very supportive parents to our children, we need to know that even while we're supportive towards these children, we need to step back from time to time and allow them do their thing, allow them fail, allow them excel, allow them do on their own. You need to be daring enough to step back and move far away and allow your child weather the storm on his or her own. When you do this, you are teaching them, or you are helping them to gain stamina. Okay, so when you as a supportive parent are constantly there nudging your child, reminding your child, propelling them and all of that. When you do that, great things, good things, okay? You're doing all of this, okay? But the thing is, it may just be that your child never really learns to be independent. Your child never really learns to depend on their own ability. Your child never really learns to make their own decision. Your child never really learns to self-direct, okay? Your child does not build stamina, okay, in the academics or in any other area because of the level of your support, which is not a bad thing. But hey, it doesn't allow your child gain autonomy or allow your child become daring enough, right, to make their own decisions. So that could be part of why your child is struggling. Now, so what do you do? Now that the children are back and they've come back with some of those poor or not so great reports and all of that, what do you now do? So a couple of things you do. You want to, number one, very, really important, really very important, is you want to go down and try to look at the source of why your child is performing in this way. Okay? You need to look at it. Sometimes it's a mindset block. I'm telling you. Okay? It's faster seeing us parents do what we ask them to do. I know, right? Yeah. So sometimes it could be a mindset block. Okay, and that's what I have realized, like in the case of our son, that's what I've realized. It's a mindset block. So our son has never liked French. He's never, not even not in year 1, not in year 2, not in year 4, not in year 6. And so it is showing even in year 7, he has never liked French. Now, somehow, maybe we let it pass, or somehow we've not been able to, help him see differently enough, or we've not been able to support him. I don't know. It's one of those things. But what has happened is he has gradually created a mindset block. Like, you see, this French is not for me. I'm not doing French. I don't like French. I cannot learn French. I cannot understand. So he has blocked his mind, right, to French. So consistently, French has pulled him down to an extent, consistently, because the highest, I think he's gotten an A in French at some point. So he's gotten A's here and there and all of that. But hey, because there's a mindset block, where French is concerned, right? And he's not been able to he's not been able to bring himself, right, himself, not me now. I can tell him all the stories because I've told him how all of it matters. I mean, excellence is what we do here. You put your best foot out, no matter the topic, no matter the subject and all of that, right? So, but he hasn't come to the point where he can self-motivate, put the energy, and then create the passion for him to actually pass French. Now, until he gets to that point, when he decides to put the right energy, and then the passion for an excellent result is enough for him not to allow French sabotage him, Until he gets to that point, he will probably continue to struggle with French until he gets to the point where French is not acceptable or not needed at all. Now, for him, I think he's told himself that he can't wait for grade 9 where he can make a choice not to do French. So you see, so it could be a mindset block. So you want to look at the origin. You want to look at why your child is consistently, not doing well in this particular area. And then you can decide as a parent how you can help them. I remember when our son was in year 5, I brought in a French teacher. I actually brought in a French teacher for the first time. That was their first lesson teacher ever. He came in from Alliance Français or whatever they call that place, and he worked with them. He worked with my both kids for a term or two, and those 2 terms were like the best term in French for them. They did excellently well in those terms, and then the year after that, year 6, it wasn't so bad. And so I decided, something, I think we're good. All right, so we stopped with the French. I think it was COVID. So that was like year 5 into 6. So during the COVID, bringing people in and all of that. So we stopped, having the French teacher come in, and we never went back to bringing in the French teacher. So basically that. So now as a parent, I would have to decide, do I want this to slide? Like, okay, he can just weather that storm until he gets to grade 9 where he can decide to do without French, or when after grade 9, he can decide to do without French. Do I want that? Or do I want to bring back the French teacher and make French a priority? So it's up to me. Look at it. Have this conversation with the child and decide, do I want to do this? Do I want to do? I mean, then you will have to give the child, reasons and all of that. Now, it could be that the reasons that you've been giving him all these years, has not cut. So at this point, you probably may have to decide, something. He probably needs a mentor at this point. You probably need to push this to his mentor. You probably need to make the French teacher not just a teacher, but a motivator. And all. You have to look for everything possible, right, to support your children. Because the negative result is feedback. And this could be French for you. It could be math for you. It could be something else for you. But you need to look at the origin. You need to go to the root and find out what the problem is. It could be a mindset block. It could be that the person who is teaching him the subject, or the person that is offering the subject, is the problem. He probably cannot connect with the teacher. Children learn from people that they connect with. If a child does not connect with a person, learning from that person is going to be difficult. And for a subject like French or certain kind of subject where you don't have too many people who are alternatives, your child could have a problem with language arts or numeracy in school, and they can learn that from you, and you can still create some sort of a balance. Because, hey, he doesn't like his math teacher, but he likes his mommy, or he likes whoever supports him at home, and hey, that balance will be created. How about in a subject that you can't even teach? I can't teach French to save my life, right? So basically, you need to check. It could be the person that is delivering that lesson or administering it and all of that. It could just be that. So in that case, you may need a substitute. Do you understand? Or something like that. Or you may need to go back to school and say, this isn't working. Something, but just make sure that you are dealing with it intentionally. Okay, it could be that. So you need to look at the source. The next thing you want to do is you want to look at how you can support the child. You want to look at how you can come in to support the child. How can I support you? What can I do to support this child in this area? All right. So you look at where your support can come in to help the child. And that support could be that you decide that you would come in and fill in the gap and give him the extra, support that he needs. Or you can decide, okay, at this point, I need to bring in someone to help. Or at this point, he would join an online tutorial. It could be this, it could be that. That is you availing yourself because you are being intentional about this. The other thing is you need to get into your child's mind. So there may be a need for some psychological, if you do psychological, psychological administration or something like that, or you need to administer some psychological, support here. Can you do that? Are you able to do this? If you're not able to do this, there's someone who can help, in this area. Your child's success is very important to you. So you go all the way to make it happen. Okay, so it could be that the child needs, an extra support here. It could be a mentor, it could be a psychologist, it could be somebody who can, come in and help them deal with it from their minds. It could be the mind could be where the problem is. It could be foundational. It could be foundational skills. The right foundation was not, the foundation was wrong from the beginning. That's the most difficult one, when the foundation was wrong from the beginning. But hey, in that case, you still need to get into the mind first, and then you need to get the right people to support the child right through it. You need to do that. And then the next one is the interventions. What interventions are you going to provide for the child? What interventions are you going to provide to support the child, and all of that and all of that, right? What interventions are you going to? So who are you bringing in? What are you bringing in? What are you ready to invest into it? What are you ready to invest into that intervention? Very, very key. Okay, and then the last one is accountability. So when you have offered the intervention and all of that, how are you going to hold the child accountable, or how are you going to make sure you are there to help them through the journey of rebounding after a failure? Okay, how are you going to be there to help them rebound after a failure, or after a setback? Now, remember, if your child is a high flyer and has always flown really high there, you may be taking it for granted, but that first failure or something may be a trauma to your child that you may not even understand. It may be a fall that your child may never bounce back from. We've had cases of children or people, adults, who had that one first fall, and the way they were judged and the kind of lack of support that they got, you took their game, you berated them, you shamed them, you did all this crazy things you did for a child that has always excelled, and all of a sudden, for once the child is at this point, then you go all out on them, and that may just be the point where the child says, something, I've worked out all this while, like a big deal. So sometimes the children may not be able to come back on their own except they are supported. So are you ready to do all of this for your child? Now I have a child that's always flown high. I have a child that's always been a high flyer. And then for some reason, this is year 7, and for some reason, we're there, struggling with, this French or no French and all of that and all of that, and all that. So I have decided, something. I've talked, in the corner here and there, I am going head on with this, and usually when we do this, when we support, I've learned to, when I'm supporting, because I understand that some of the challenges that we have are universal, as I said. Some of the challenges we have are universal. Europe to Asia, Africa, they are universal and all of that. So we may have parents out there who are struggling with a child who has done badly for the first time, a child who is doing badly, and you have tried so much, you don't know how to. So I have a program that I'm going to be running, right? I'm running this program with, some really good high flyers around me that have had their first little step, and I don't know if this is going to traumatize them, if this is not traumatizing. I don't know how much this is going to affect them, but I am very, very, very hell-bent on smashing every mindset block. I'm very bent on making them bounce back. I'm hell-bent on making them bounce back. I have a couple of my friends' kids, okay, and I have my son who is dealing with one of those things, so I am going on a retreat with these children, and I am opening it out. I'm going to take about 20 children, okay. If you have a child who is in this position, I'm going to take about 20 kids who are in this kind of position, and we're going to have a psychologist. Yes, I'm going to have a psychologist with me. I'm going to have a renowned teacher. I'm going to have like a well-grounded teacher, right, in that program. I have a psychologist, I have a well-grounded teacher, and myself, and we're going to go with these children on a journey in the last 2 weeks of August. Okay, so we're going to go with them on a journey in the last week of August. Not 2 weeks, about 10 days program we're going to do with them. It's called Retreat and Rebounds. So we're going to allow the children go through how they feel, with all of this. No pressure, please. If you've been giving your children a lot of pressure because they did badly or they struggled with something, you need to stop. Please give them back their games. Give them back their privileges, okay? What they need is support, not criticism. If you want them to bounce back, it's not you're snatching everything, okay? I keep saying to parents, a time will come that your children will not need those things that you keep snatching away from them. At that point, what are you going to use to get them to get back on track? How? What are you going to use to get them back on track? So stop making children feel that every time they don't do well, you will take everything from them. A time will come when they have everything and they won't have regards from you for you, because all of a sudden you can't take anything from them anymore. Okay, so we need to find out at every point how our children need to be supported, and we need to support them, especially in dicey areas like their academics and areas like that, that is build that is something that is like a building block that will build into their entire life. Okay, so you don't want to keep, you don't want to keep berating, and you don't want to keep judging them. And the road is long, the road is far, the road to excellence is far. Okay, there's a lot more you can do with this child. So you don't want to lose the child because you're judging them. Okay, and then you lose the connection that you need to help them bounce back from failure or from setbacks. Okay, so you want to make them know that I am here, and mistakes are allowed. Mistakes are a stepping block. What are the psychological way that you are preparing your child for setbacks, and how are you helping them come back from a setback, basically? So that's what we're going to be doing with the children in this program. It's at the end, just we want to do this with them just before they get back to school. So we want to clear that mindset. We want to rearrange their minds and then put them back into the system so that they can go and break all grounds. After this, I promise you there will be a 360-degree turnaround, and then we will set an accountability system that will help your child stay on track to the end of the term, and you will be you'll be excited, you will be happy for it. We want to create what will help our children do the things that they do because they understand why they have to do it, and they understand that it is about them. So sometimes you have been talking, your children are probably not listening to you anymore. They need to listen to a neutral person. Okay, so that's what this is about. They need to listen to a neutral person that is not biased, is not judging them in any way. Okay, so yes, you've been talking, they've not been hearing this because they stopped listening to you, because they're not sure whether you want to shame them, you want to judge them, or you want what is good for them. So forget that they say the carrot and stick. Forget that. You be like, okay, after I beat him and after I did, I still came and talked to him calmly. The subconscious mind does not deliver it that way to your child. Sorry. Okay, the next time your child will still hide that thing because he's not sure what you would do. Beat him, shame him, judge him, or correct him. It doesn't work like that with children. You can't be doing it like this. It doesn't work like that. He will still hide it. Okay. So at some point, you probably have lost it. Sorry, it happens to all of us. So you probably have lost it in that area, and you may just need, a neutral person to help with this. All right, so we're going to have flyers out very soon, for this program. If you're interested, you can send us a chat right here in the comments, or you can send us a chat on our private line. And have you joined the reading challenge? The reading challenge begins tomorrow. PTM reading challenge, where your children are setting their own goals. If you've been following me, you will know now that for me, nothing is by force. Okay, for me, you don't force children to do anything. If you really want your children to do the things that they do, internalize them. It becomes a part of them. They love it. They enjoy it. This is what learning should be. I am raising lifelong learners. And I think that is the best way to raise children, to be willing learners. Willing learners are not dragged by a leash all around the place. They are not forced into anything. Willing learners are encouraged, and they are allowed to make their choice to be or not be. So yes, the reading challenge is not one of those challenges where your children have to enter and do, but no, the reading challenge is a challenge where you will be challenging. You will put it before the kids. Hey, sweetie, we are having a challenge. Are you interested? And all of that. And then you tell them all that will go with the challenge. Okay, how many books do you want to? But you know how we do it. We don't give them no options, but we don't give them all the options. We don't let them have everything that they want. So it's a case of we're all doing this challenge. But hey, guess what? You can actually decide how far you want to go or how much you want to do. How many books are you willing to read? 2 books, 3 books, 4 books, 5 books, 10 books. It's your challenge. Let's get to it. it. Okay, then hey everybody, if we all do this challenge well, at the end of the challenge, this is what we're going to do as a whole family. Yay! Something like that. So it's going to be exciting, and for every day we'll have exciting activities for the children to get into. They are busy doing that, and while they are busy with those activities, it entails that they read. Don't worry, we got you covered. So if you have not already started for the challenge, it's only 2,000 naira. 2,000 naira. How many dollars is that, Chidima? Small money, shinkity money. All right, so just get right into the challenge, and for 30 days we'll be with you, giving you accountability. Accountability is what we do. We love accountability because we understand that accountability is what is really, really key. Force doesn't do it. You may get them just bow, to your whims and caprices. You may get them just indulge you for the moment, but I'm sure you don't want to raise children who are pretentious. You don't want to raise children who do the eye service. You don't want to raise children who do things only because you are there. You want to raise children who would be authentic, whether you're there or you're not there. And this is what we want to do with everything that we do, from the mastermind program to the reading program to accountability, for everything we do. We want you to get to the point where you can get your children to do these things willingly. So thank you very much, everyone who joined me. Thank you for being here. Thank you for spending part of your Thursday with me. I do not take it for granted. If you're just joining, you can catch the whole replay. If you're catching the replay right now, let us know you're catching the replay, and let us know if you got value from this session. All right, Chidima said, when a parent has an expensive lifestyle that she has to buy as she be every weekend, she won't be able to do more for the children. My dear sister. Dear parents, there's nothing like balance. So as my coach would say, there is nothing like balance. There is more like, what is priority per time? What is important per time? What can be left for later? And what cannot be reversed? What can I not leave for later because there is no later in the matter? Parenting, there is no later in the matter of parenting. You can never parent a particular phase of your child's life 2 times. I say that again. You can never parent a particular phase of your child's life 2 times. You get it right now, or that phase will pass. Everything you will be doing after that is repair. And I promise you, repair is many times more difficult than doing it right the first time. So, as my boss will say, you will do the time. Whether you do it now or you do it later, you must do the time. So you're either investing into these children and helping them retrace their self-help steps, helping them rebound right now that they are still young and able to adjust. Or you will be doing time with your money, with your peace, with your, everything during your old age. I'm sure, you must have read about Ebenezer Obey and his 48-year-old son who just passed on due to drug addiction and all of that. God rest his soul. But what we're saying here is, please, parents, you would do the time. Why don't you rather do the time right now? Have a lovely, lovely rest of the day. Bye. Thank you, Tugbe. Thank you for being here. Have a lovely rest of the day, and let us know. The challenge is starting tomorrow. It is just 2,000 naira. It's not even enough to buy pizza. I'm sure it's not even enough to buy Hungry Man pizza. What do they call that small pizza? It's not even enough to buy. You better get into this challenge. I don't know why we don't have 1,000 people in this challenge already. What is wrong with you? All right, then just go ahead and register for the challenge. You will do the children a lot of good. Have a lovely rest of the day. Bye.